talk about is context. So if you have context in your top 8, please stand up. So I've got Tom, Skylar, and Randy. All right, wonderful. So again, look at those with context. You two can have a seat. So right, we're on that timeline, futuristic, 5, 10 plus years. Strategic, 1 to 3. Analytical, today. Skylar and Randy are in the past to say, hey, I want to understand the past to inform the present to lead to the future, right? So again, maybe this goes really well with your question, Randy, and you're like, okay, John is futuristic, not saying it was him, but in your past life or other connections, people have futuristic, and they're like, what about this? And you're like, do I trust them? Do they really have that clear vision? I have a lot of questions, and they have an idea, and your context can say, I hear you, but what your idea is, we did that in the past, and it didn't work. Or, it was mixed results. So it's the idea of, let's understand the past, let's not repeat past mistakes, let's learn from that. Let's say, if somebody has an idea that you've already tried, you can say, yeah, that's not going to work, or could we modify it so maybe this time it could be more successful. So remember, we talked about strategic and very fast. Context tends to be a little bit slower in nature to say, I hear you, but let's reflect. Let's think a little bit. If it's not an emergency, let's really get some data. So people with context might really enjoy things like museums, historical markers, favorite periods of history, documentaries, being a genealogist, archaeologist, things like that. So again, it's the idea to say, what can we learn from previous things so we don't do the same thing? So Randy, I didn't have the pleasure of your one-on-one. Do you recall any of this? We're talking with Scott about that. How do you see context for yourself?
Just as you described it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All of it.
Yeah, like looking back in the past and seeing how does this fit and what might be different this time.
Yeah. So do you see that maybe at LCCA where somebody might have an idea and you can say, well, we've done something similar?
I haven't been around long enough to do that, but I do have lots of questions that probably drive people nuts.
Yeah.
So.
And not that you'd have experience specifically to LCCA, we might have some of that, but even experience with other boards, other organizations, that you can bring that, right? It doesn't have to be very specific to the organization, too. What do you, Skylar?
Yeah, I mean, it definitely fits my nature. I had a question though about whether there are some that can never go together, like can futuristic and context never go together?
No, they can't. Yeah. So good question. I don't have all the memorized.
They marry each other.
There's a component of that,
I
for
bet
sure.
there is.
There is data that talks about the most likely to be combined, and so I'll tell you there's a number of you in this room that have learner and achiever. We'll talk about that later. That's more common. There's other ones like positivity and deliberative, not as common. I'm trying to think of some other ones. Like command and empathy are not very common. So yes, there are, but that one I'll see, it's in the middle of the road. Good question. And when we talk about this, you see context for yourself?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I can know why something works the way it does, so I can understand how likely it will in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on to connectedness. Stand up if you have connectedness in your top 8. Just one. All right, this is the first one. Eric, you're standing all by yourself. Or no, you used it up for futures. No. Analytical. Thank you. All right. All right, you're the only one with connectedness, and you have a seat.
Okay,
all right.
thanks.
So again, what did you say?
Thanks.
Yeah. If I don't point it out every single time, right? When somebody is standing alone, I just want to really reiterate: you're the only one that has that strength so high. You might be the only one having that perspective. So don't be afraid to speak up today or ever in the future from that strength. So connectedness is the big picture, seeing strength. You see everything. You see the forest and the trees. You see everything in a web-like structure. I like to go to fall, and I think of like the corn mazes. When you're in the corn maze, you don't know which way to go, right? You're taking a lot of wrong turns. Meanwhile, if you're in a hot air balloon overlooking it, it is so obvious, right? And that is where air can have that connectedness to say, I want to connect people, programs, and ideas. Where I believe everything is interconnected, right? You're a fourth grade teacher this year, right? I know teachers will say, you know what, my classroom, it doesn't matter. I don't have to worry about what everybody else is doing. It's just my classroom. But connectedness is saying, well, no, there are impacts, positively and negatively, whether you're trying to think about it or not, right? It's the idea that everything happens and can have a positive or negative reaction. So are we communicating enough, right? If all of a sudden fourth grade decides that they're going to change their recess time, No, don't do that, right? Connectedness is saying, right, we've got this all planned out, so we've got enough, room on the playground and all of that. And it's the idea if you're adding more extracurricular activities. All right, well, let's think about how that's going to impact connectedness to families, right? I know a lot of times when I'm working with schools, I say the connectedness isn't just these four walls. It's thinking about how we're impacting the families, and are they making sure that the kids are home for dinner, or are they always, carting them around from one event to another? Connectedness, you want to break down those silos and make sure the departments are connecting with each other. So there's that awareness of what everybody's doing. You're connecting bridges, right? Connecting people. So again, you're seeing everything intertwined. So Eric, how do you see connectedness with what you do?
Well, I've always been fascinated by systems of things, and I believe that a lot of times cause and effect are separated by space and time quite a bit. It's not always a direct relationship, and you have to search for those pathways. So, and I do believe and agree, silos, in my experience, are toxic environments. They pit us against them, breaks down organizations from the inside. So I don't like when I see those things. So as far as what I'm doing here, I guess I just try to apply that view to when we are making decisions and talking about things. I try to think, what are all the little dominoes that could fall because of that, or which ones stand up because of that.
Yeah.
It's just something I think about all the time.
Yeah. What, Margaret?
Would this strength lead Eric to being a good delegator? Because I feel like one of the things he's very good at is directing our leadership team to incorporate the teachers and giving them opportunities to lead, where I think maybe my achiever #1 status is like, I'm just gonna get that done myself, and Eric's like, let's leave that in the ballpark of the teachers. They can get that done. They can work together to get that done.
Yeah.
And he's a good delegator in that.
That's awesome. I've never thought of it that way, but for sure. Yeah, I like what he's saying. Again, maybe you've got enough on your plate. Let's think through that. And
If I can speak to that for just a minute, the reason I do that kind of stuff is because I believe it breaks down the silo effect, right? Getting people involved and ownership of certain things that compels them to talk to other people about what they're doing and so forth. And at least in some regard, I believe that contributes to breaking down the silos or preventing them from being created.
Great. I love that. So great comment again. I love it. Whenever I do these sessions, I always learn, a thing or two that I've never had in the previous session. So thank you for asking that question. Thank you for clarifying from your strength. What I wanted to bring up with this one is 2 campuses. Is that something that is always kind of, you're wrestling with that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we knew that going in, right? We have to make intentional efforts for those 2 big silos to not fortify themselves, right? So yeah, it's forefront, I think, on both our minds, and more than just us too as well. I think a lot of people talk about it frequently.
Perfect. Yeah, and that's one I'll touch on later when we get to the ones that only have one of you. But next we have ideation. So please stand up if you have ideation in your top 8. So Eric, you're standing up alone, but Tom would be standing if you were here. Okay, so Eric and Tom.
That's relieved.
Tom is right here, we'll just say. All right, you can have a seat. And again, having met Tom and understanding his background in marketing, again, ideation, I wasn't surprised to see that for him. So ideation is in 2 categories. First of all, it's a seeing strength that you see ideas. Your brain is just going from this to that, and about this, right? So that could be another component. And that's why when you asked about delegating with just connectedness, it's like I can see a number of strengths. This is another one here. So ideation, you see ideas. It's known as the original creativity theme, right? You can come up here with all these ideas, and people are like, whoa, Eric, that's a lot. Like, let's, what do we do with that? But it's like, it's okay. We're just sharing ideas now, and we're going to funnel it down to the most important ones. And it's problem identification, because he's very good at connecting all those ideas and seeing how they all connect. I worked with an IT gentleman in IT once that had this. And he goes, if you look outside at night and you see stars in the sky, right, most of us see stars. Well, with his ideation, he sees the constellation. He sees the picture that it's forming, right? And that's where ideation can come in. Like, what about this? What about that? For the rest of us, we might look at somebody's ideation and feel like it's squirrel, 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 shiny object syndrome. But again, he has all these ideas, and again, if he doesn't speak up about these ideas, we're never going to have a solution, right? We're never going to get to that issue. Because if we're squashing it, he might feel like he can't share ideas. Like every time I share ideas, people are annoyed and they put me down, right? It's like, no, we want to hear these ideas to say, or let's schedule a brainstorming session, let's hear all these ideas, and then guess what? The rest of us that maybe aren't as creative, which is me, right? It's the idea of, all right, I'm not going to come up with the original idea, but now that Eric shared something, it sparked an idea for me. And now I can piggyback off on it, and then we can work together, right? Ideate and move on to say, what is the real issue and what's the best solution going forward? For those who have worked with Eric, do you see that? Just very creative, a lot of ideas.
I especially appreciate that Eric takes the time to sort of mull through a variety of ideas. And then in conversation, we can cull through those and determine like which one is the right path in this moment. So he's reflects well and in that process of also looking for solutions to problems.
I'll say for myself, I'm often not the person to start the ideas, like, because I ponder about things, I'm actually quite reluctant to spew out ideas, but others are. And what I really enjoy doing is taking that as a seed and then thinking about them and expanding on them, or playing devil's advocate. Well, what if we did it this way, or how about we do it that way? And so I think for me, that's where I see myself fitting in that role. I do hesitate sometimes to throw out a bunch of ideas. I'm not that kind of idea person, because I want to think about the ideas before I present them to see that I've vetted them myself, that they're good. So on a brainstorming thing, I actually am more quiet at the beginning. But then I try to take what other people start with and see if I can help by expanding them.
Love it. I remember you sharing that in the one-on-one. And I'll tell you the reason he's saying that is because of two of his other strengths that we won't talk about for quite a while, unfortunately. But understanding, again, some of the strengths aren't going to always 100% sound like you, depending on some of your other ones. So that may not be Eric, but you could say maybe that's Tom, or maybe that's other people that aren't in this room that are just always throwing out these ideas, right? So this isn't going to apply for Eric, but other people who have ideation, they've actually had to explain, like, I'm going to share ideas. The first time you hear it, it's just an idea. The second time, I'm still thinking about it. If you hear me say the same idea the third time, I really, I've culled it down to what I think are the top issues. So you're doing that on your own before typically sharing to a certain degree. Yeah, very good. All right, moving on. Focus. Next, so this is attraction strength. So please stand up to your focus in your top 8. So Emily and Lauren. All right, you two get a seat. So focus. It's the idea of you want to get something started, but it's typically one thing at a time. You might have a lot on your to-do list, but you want to focus on that one thing. It's the idea of setting that goal, working towards it, ideally putting things on do not disturb, closing the door if you can to say, unless it's an emergency, don't interrupt me. I really want to gain some progress on this. So focus is saying, I'm going to concentrate on this. It's the most important thing that I want to work on right now, and then I'm going to move on to the next thing. So again, thinking about end of school year or planning for next year or what you want to do, that focus is saying, yes, these are all great ideas, but what is the one thing that I should really be focusing on right now? So it can be really great as a strong leadership strength to help other people too. Like I said, in my marketing career, it was I want to reduce the overwhelm. Don't feel like overwhelmed that you have all these things to do and you don't even know where to start. The focus is going to help you pick that one thing, gain momentum, get that win, then move on and replicate it again. So Emily, how do you see focus for yourself?
That's tricky for me because I don't see it in isolation. For me, I don't see it as very narrow. I see it paired with some of my other strengths, like the achiever, and we're going to do what we pick. Is going to be many things, but they're all going to be done well.
Yeah, okay. I think we talked about that a little bit too. Yeah. So a pure achiever, which obviously we haven't talked about yet, has a really long to-do list, wants to get a lot of stuff done, but the focus is maybe it's not just the one thing, but it's the 4 things. I'm going to start this for a little bit, and if you have focus, it doesn't mean that you can't multitask. It doesn't mean you can't work on a lot of different things, but usually it's having a decent window to work on one thing and really see progress. Yes, Margaret.
I feel like I have comments on everybody else.
I rely on them so heavily, and you may not see it, but when I need something done that I don't have the capacity to do, but I need it fairly quickly, I call on Emily and ask her to do it because she can, like, narrow, focus in, and she turns it around for me, and it's always done really well, and it's super, her product is super reliable. So I see that strength in her. Actually, I see myself relying on what I didn't know was a strength of hers. But it absolutely makes clear sense to me why I depend on her for things like that.
I also think it says director guide right there. That is definitely, I mean, she is director in her job title too, but if you ever have a question about anything, she's the one to go to because she'll direct you to the right path, guide you to the direct path, and at least tell you where to go next, and it's very helpful.
Wonderful. Yeah, and don't feel bad about sharing those ideas, Martha. Again, that's what I want you to do. It's nice when somebody's like, oh, you see me for who I am, right? It's a good thing, right? And not be like, oh, I'm being recommended. So keep doing that. That's a great thing. And Lori, how about you? How do you see focus for yourself?
This I see in my projects,
Yeah.
and they're very lined up in the calendar
Mm-hmm.
each month and time frame of the school year. And so, like now I'm doing preliminary budget, so it's like, leave me alone.
Yeah.
I have to get this done.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, very good. All right, next we have activator. So stand if you have activator in your top 8. And this is where just one, it's just Skylar. Get started. All right, so we joke that people who have activator are going to stop at red lights. They take a longer route, they take a right-handed turn because they just don't want to sit still. Were there any skipping of red lights, longer routes on your drive last week?
You take a longer route, driving was backed up.
Didn't want to sit still. Yes. So activator, it's the ready, fire, aim strength. So people who have activator do not want to sit still. It might be really hard. Again, sitting for 4 hours today, that's okay. Like I said, if you've got to get up. But it's the idea of always wanting to be in motion. And Skylar is comfortable with saying, I have 1% of the information, I know what the first step is. And then as he takes the first step, then he's collecting more information to figure out what the next step is, right? So it's the idea of, I don't want to just sit here because a week from now, I'm in no better shape. So we're going to take it a little as I get information and make those decisions. So it can be a catalyst or igniter. It's funny, I don't know if you've heard of the construction company Catalyst Construction. So we've done work with them, and I was working with the CEO who started the company, and his #1 strength is activator. And I'm like, Catalyst, how interesting. So, it's just kind of funny how the more you get to know people, it's like, oh, this makes sense, and why you made certain decisions. So activator, 1%, let's get going. So Skylar, do you see that, whether it's here or in other aspects of your life, where it's like, let's not just keep collecting information, let's take that first or second step forward?
Absolutely.
Is sitting still tough for you? Yeah, all right. All right, and so that's a great example. Okay, so then there's activator, and then every once in a while, you're going to see pictures like this. There are some strengths that can rub each other the wrong way. Okay, not all strengths have opposites, but understand there are some. So again, I just want us to be aware of it. So that question Skylar asked in the beginning, right? I can't remember the exact question, but can strengths get in our way? Absolutely. Can they butt heads with each other? Absolutely. So you've got command, butt heads with everything, basically, and that's okay, right? It can, but all right. So stand up if you have command. So John is the only one that has command. All right, you may have a seat. So command varies similarly to activator. 1% of the information is all John needs, right? So think about it. There are a lot of people in the world that do not want to be in charge, right? Just tell me what to do. Just let me know what you need me to do, and I'm going to do that. I don't want to lead the team. I don't want to be in front of the room, having all eyes on me, right? So command says, I'm comfortable taking control of the situation, especially if there's some challenges and we're looking for somebody to step up and lead, we're going to do that. We work with a number of fire departments as well, right? So if we're at the top of the US Bank building and there's a fire, we are looking for somebody to take command of that situation and lead us to safety, right? So command is very helpful to say, I have 1% of information and then I can lead forward, right? You're taking presence, it's the idea of that forward momentum. So sometimes you can take control, you lead, you're driven, you're assertive, you can be very candid, very direct. So John, you see command for yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like having the ball.
Yeah. Take charge. If we're looking for a leader here and it's quiet long enough, you're probably gonna be like, I got this, I'll just do it. Or maybe Skylar with his activator, maybe too. 1%, again, 1% information, very similar. Now, remember, command can butt heads with a lot of other strengths. And let me just go back to that slide. So we're gonna talk about harmony. I kind of letting you know, so deliberative. Nobody on the team today has deliberative, includer, or empathy. Okay? And we've already talked about analytical. But if we had those, we talk about those right now. Okay, so I just want to mention that. But for this team, command can butt heads with harmony. So please stand if you have harmony. And there's just one of you. All right. So Ellen, you have harmony. All right, you have a seat. So harmony says that you want to work in a harmonious environment. Ellen, you might find yourself.
I don't.
Do you ever find
Have you
yourself?
ever? Like,
Okay, so Ellen, do you ever find yourself thinking or saying, "Can we just get along? Can we all just get along?" You ever feel
oh
that?
yeah.
Yeah. All right. So harmony. It's the idea that you want people to work in a peaceful environment. You want people to get along. So there's a good chance that Ellen might say, you know what, I just don't want to have an argument. So, whatever the group decides, I'm comfortable with. Like, I'm good with that. Now, I want to say there's a talent. We're born with talents, remember, and we develop them into strengths over time. The talent of harmony will say things like, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to touch the boat. I'm just going to walk away. I see conflict. I turn the other way. However, when harmony is truly developed, they'll say, some people will say, I love conflict, right? I talked to some lawyers who have harmony. They're like, oh, this is so great. I love going into conflict and mediating, negotiating. Or some people say, I don't really love conflict, but I know that I can be a good mediator. I can come in and two people are disagreeing. Let's find some common ground. Let's really figure out what that is. So again, when harmony is a strength, you can say, I can come in and I can bring peace to a contentious situation. Before we go any further than that, Ellen, do you see some components of harmony for you in your life and how that shows up?
Yeah, not so much that, it's more of, because I am a lawyer, so I'll negotiate or argue or try to bring people to their senses. Yeah. I see harmony when they see the right way.
Yeah. We were,
but it's a little different now. But yeah, trying to be more collaborative and, bringing more voices in. Yeah.
So for band, go to the gym.
Yeah, years ago, we worked with a team and they had a corporate attorney at the company and he had harmony. And when everybody heard that, they're all like, this assessment is a bunch of garbage. There's no way he has harmony. He's always picking fights. And as we talked more about that, he was a lawyer, right? When you go to law school, right, that's what you do, right? You explain your side. And what they realized is he wasn't creating conflict. There was already conflict, but Ellen, you and I weren't getting along, but we both went to Randy to complain about each other. And for him, with his harmony, he was like, no more of that. No, we're coming together. We're going to address it head on. And so they saw it as a negative, but after this, they're like, oh, actually, I realized he was looking out for what's best to say, let's have the conflict now so we can move past it. And again, some of us who are attorneys are like, that's not fun. Right? But so there can be a component of there that you enjoy that aspect for your job. You can also sense what we call artificial harmony. Artificial harmony is where everybody in this room is like, this is great, I love it, thank you all for doing this. And then as soon as you go out in the parking lot, you have a meeting after the meeting, and the two of you are like, I can't believe you did this, and the two of you are like, I can't believe you did this. And then I walk by and you're like, hi, it's great. And then it's back to talking about it, right? So we want to avoid artificial harmony. So again, if Ellen is the only person in this room that has harmony, we want to say, hey, Ellen, how are you feeling? Do you feel like we're all on board? And now we're not asking Ellen to call Lori out to say, Lori, you're lying. You said you're on board, but you're not. We're not saying that, but if you can sense that Lori or somebody else is like not really on board, it's asking clarifying questions, right? To open up the dialogue, to be the first one to ask the questions or say, I'm not really sure I follow or I'm not sure I agree. And then hopefully then others who are really feeling that way but are afraid to say it will be comfortable to do that. Does that make sense? All right. So again, that's a very important one. As I mentioned, strengths butting heads, right? So command is like, let's just get going, let's get it started. And Harmony's like, whoa, before we do that, let's make sure we're on the same page. You know, if we talked about it, if we communicated, right? We're breaking down silos, all of that. So we need both, right? Command's gonna help us get going, but Harmony's gonna make sure that people are following, that we're all on the same team, all in the same direction. Questions, comments? All right, so then maximizer and developer can butt heads with each other. So if you have maximizer, please stand up. So I got Margaret and George. All right, the two of you have maximizer, you can have a seat. All right, let me check something. All right, so we'll talk about your developer too. All right, so maximizers on their own, it's the idea they're in two categories. So first of all, you yourself want to be maximized. So this is a driving term. So you are not looking for somebody to tell you what to do. Your maximizer is just gonna say, how can I be better today than I was yesterday? How can I fill my time? I worked with one woman who was a maximizer. I was working with her, she was at a company full-time, but she also had a part-time business. She was a TV personality. She also started her own blog, and then she had 2 little children at home. And she's telling me all this in person, and I was like, you know what, I have to tell you, I'm feeling your energy, like your excitement, and I'm also exhausted when I think about, I couldn't do that, right? But way to use her maximizer. She called herself Maximizer Mama even before taking this assessment, so it really made sense. So for her, she's driven to really be productive with her time, right? She's like, if I have 15 minutes free, I'm writing a blog. I'm not just sitting there staring out wasting 15 minutes. You don't like status quo, right? It's always striving to be better, okay? And that's not just you, but also the people that you work with. It's, you know what, I need you to at least try, put in that effort to go from good to great. So we joke that interpersonal is like 0.25% interpersonal, meaning on its own, sometimes you might say, you know what, I want to work with good people who are already doing really well and go from good to great, right? You may not do great with the hand-holding. You might be a little bit more impatient with people, whether if they don't know what they're doing or if they're not putting in enough effort. Now, I know sometimes that can come across harsh. Sometimes I go to the extremes here. So this may or may not sound like you in all aspects. But so Margaret, I didn't have your one-on-one. So when you had a one-on-one with Scott, do you remember thoughts on maximizing? Do you see that for yourself? High expectations, striving to always be better?
I do definitely have that for myself. And I also have to work to have the patience with others that I maybe feel aren't keeping up or don't have that same. So that is something I recognize in myself, especially in the leadership role where a component of my job is coaching others. I have to tune in to myself so that I don't come across as impatient.
Yeah.
Maybe don't always do that best. But
And it's being aware of that to say, yes, that might be a component of your job, but does it have to be as big of a component as you're thinking? The people that maybe need more of the hand-holding, could you have somebody with the strength of developer?
that's why I hire other people.
Perfect. And that's what I love to hear, right? And it's, again, knowing where some of these can possibly get in the way to say, this is currently part of my job. Does it have to be a full part of my job in the future? Let's have that conversation. That's the point of today. All right, so that's maximizer. So developers, please stand up. So we've got Cammie and we've got Georgia. All right, so if you've noticed, Georgia stood up for both. So we're gonna just talk about Cammie for a second, and then we're gonna talk about Georgia. That's okay. Developers are the natural encourager. They see the potential in everyone. It's the idea of, way to go, little Johnny, way to tie your shoe. I'm so proud of you for the first time. And then Margaret's over here like, you just started to tie your shoe. I was making my shoes at that. Now, joking aside though, right? So a developer might be drawn to being a teacher, right? 4th grade, hey, that makes sense, right? That connects. So developer is the idea of you're encouraging people. You're gonna be very patient with them. Again, you're probably still gonna wanna see that effort, but it's like if you have your curriculum and you're like, okay, by the end of Friday, they're gonna be able to spell out their name well. Then Friday comes and somebody doesn't. All right, well, we're gonna work with you. We're gonna try something different. We're gonna get creative. We're gonna figure things out. We're gonna still be there to support, to handhold you. It's about the journey and the process more so than the end destination. right? At the end of the school year, there's gonna be tears, right?
Yeah.
Every year, every year. Because you're so excited to see where they were and how far they've come, right? That's why you probably got into teaching. Okay? So developers and maximizers, do we see how they could butt heads, right? What I just said, right? Cammy's like, just encourage them. Margaret's like, no, they should know how to do it by now. What's going on, right?
Like, no, you do.
This is so great. And that's exactly it. So even without strengths, you identified that that's something like, oh, I could maybe use some help here. Perfect, right? They can butt heads if we don't understand, but if we do, we can appreciate it and partner up, right? Exactly like you just said. Hey, Cammie, I think it's gonna be better for you to do that. So Cammie will coach them to a certain point, and then when they get to a certain point, then they can she can hand them right back to Margaret, and she's like, great, now I can take them from good to great. And then there's Georgia.
Okay.
Now, Georgia, you both, right? So you have both developer and maximizer. Now, a lot of times we'll see that in like HR roles where you're hiring entry level as well as seasoned individuals. So for you, it's gonna be good because it's making sure that you're developing people who need to be developed and you're maximizing people who need to be maximized, right? So whether either of them are looking for a partner up opportunity, more help with developing or more help with maximizing, you can help on both sides. You see that? Yeah. I think we talked about that a little bit in your one-on-one, right? Of, okay, I want to encourage people, but I'm also at a certain point, I've got higher standards for you, step it up. All right. Very good. Now we have significance. Please stand up if you have the strength of significance. All right, quite a few of you. All right, so I got Skylar, Emily, Lori, and Ellen. Wonderful. Have a seat. So significance is a driving or finishing strength. This is actually one of my strengths. This helps me understand my career. I worked in manufacturing for 13 years. Manufacturing is great, but it wasn't great for me. I was marketing products that I didn't know existed. So I didn't really have a passion for them. So I left manufacturing, and then I went on my own as my own person. I started a company in consulting. But then I felt lonely, right? I felt like I could do more with the team. I only had so many hours in a day. So then I went out and I joined another firm doing marketing. But then I was still feeling like marketing doesn't always solve the problem, right? People hire me, they think that's the problem, but the marketing isn't a lot of the times the problem. It's the people maybe not aligned, right? Not getting along with each other. So when I started Partner Learn in 2019 and really understood strengths, this significant strength is why I do what I do today. It's the idea of I want to leave a lasting impact. I want to leave the world a better place than I found it. And for some people, some of you that stood up, it might be if you have your own children to say, I want to leave a lasting legacy for my children. If you don't have kids, don't want kids, whatever it is, you're in a school, it's the idea of I want to impact these children. I want to teach them something. I want to help them be successful in whatever they choose to do in their life. Right? It's the idea of how many people can I impact and leave the world a better place than I found it. It's counting in what counts, right? So again, maybe it's part of why you're on the board, why you work here, why you do certain types of volunteer opportunities. It's because you want to make a difference. If you only have so much time in the day, your significance will typically help you dictate, how can I make the greatest impact? I can work with these 10 children instead of this one. Or if I work with this one, I think this one will have the greatest impact overall, so I want to invest my time in them. So anybody with significance want to share with me how you've seen this help you to decide maybe your career or why you're part of LCCA?
I'll share.
Thank you.
I started as a speech and language pathologist, and so I felt like it was a very narrow focus, and then this opportunity presented itself, and I feel like in the leadership role, I'm able to impact more people, both teachers and special education teachers, but also then the kids for them.
Absolutely. So again, seeing that this is pure significance may not do everything, but again, I'll mention with Emily, she's got achiever, so with that, and with this and achiever, she's going to probably do everything. But again, I have significance as a driving strength. I'm not out trying to get everything done. I'm trying to say, how can I have the greatest impact? All right, next is competition. So stand up if you have competition. All right, Skylar wins. Sorry, Ellen. That's good. All right. It's always sad when there's only
She's
one.
gonna fly out of her chair. I know.
I'm sorry. All right, competition is about winning, being first. Now, where this can get in the way is competition can be about I want to be number one. But where it's really helpful is to say, I want to help the team be number one, right? So it's the idea of you want to be number one, and people who have competition are looking towards external goals to say, how can we exceed the competition, right? So I want to go back to Maximizer for a second. Maximizer is you're internally motivated. How can I be the best version of myself? You wake up in the morning and say, what do I want to do? Competition will say, I'm looking externally, maybe at my boss, maybe at the organization mission to say, how can I make sure we're number one? So maybe at LCCA it's to say, and looking at enrollment numbers to say we're always striving to get a certain percentage, and we want to grow 10% next year. And the competition, the two of you are saying, let's make it 15, let's make it 20, right? We want to always be the best. We want to be seen as the best, and it's not just about numbers. So it can be very motivational, very inspirational for the rest of the team to really help kind of feel that fire underneath you to try to be the best. Do the two of you see that for yourself? I think we talked about that in your one-on-one, right? That competition for you really fuels you. Yeah. How about you, Ellen?
Yeah. Very goal-oriented.
Yeah. So again, going to help the organization to say, I'm on this board, and I'm not just on this board to check a box, right? I'm going to make sure that we're being very productive here. We're meeting those goals, however we're helping the team. All right, so moving on, we've got responsibility. Please stand up if you have responsibility. So it's quite a few of you. So we've got Emily, Randy, Margaret, Cammie, Lori, and Ellen. All right, so those of you that didn't stand, you're not responsible, right? That's what we decided. No, I'm teasing, that's not true at all. Responsibility, this is a lifestyle strength. You are highly credible, you are highly trustworthy, you do what you say you're going to do. You don't go half in, you go all in. If your name is tied to it, you have a good reputation, you want your work to really mean something. So with responsibility, understand that if you volunteer for it, you start, you finish it. If you're tasked to do it, you start, you finish it, right? It's important, right? So know that because of this, there's a couple things that could get in the way. Number one, you might have trouble saying a two-letter word.
No.
You may have trouble delegating. That's where Eric's going to come in and help you, Margaret. And you may struggle to work with somebody if they are micromanaging you. If you've ever had a boss who micromanages you and you're certain responsibility, you're going to be like, I said I was going to do it. You can leave me alone. You're wasting my time. Do you not trust me? Right? So there has to, now again, if you hire somebody and it's their first week, you're going to probably micromanage a little. You're going to just check in all the time. There has to be that level of trust. But if you've been here for 2 years and that leader is still always over your shoulder, there's going to be some discussion, right? And they could micromanage you right out the door. So we want to be aware of that. So if you have anybody reporting to you that has responsibility and perhaps you're micromanaging them, be aware of this. And again, have conversations 2 ways to say, yeah, I realize that I might be doing this. Well, how can we work on that trust and expectations and everything? So responsibility. If you feel like you have trouble saying no, a good partner for you is going to be somebody who has the strength of strategic. People who have strategic are very good at prioritizing, and they can help you say no to things, or maybe not volunteer for that one next thing to say, you know what, maybe you shouldn't do it, let's find somebody else that might have the capacity to do that. Again, this is a lifestyle strength, but understand that this can be traction and this can be driving. But you don't start and finish anything. It's what you say you'll do or what you're tasked to do. Make sense? So with responsibility, so Margaret, do you see that maybe that having Eric help you to delegate, maybe he's seeing a little bit of that, like you're taking on too much yourself?
Yeah, but I also am wondering if down the line, my leadership team, that I tend to look for people who I can trust so that I don't micromanage. I can be way more hands off with these 3 women because they're going to get it done, and I know that about them. So it makes sense to me that responsibility is a complementary attribute in our context, in our team, because we do sometimes all have to take a piece of the pie and just manage it, and it helps that I don't rely on them to do that. I really used
That doesn't, not being responsible doesn't mean you're responsible.
Agreed.
That's right. That's right. Yes.
I'm looking.
I was just teasing. Yes. Yeah, but so understand that, right? And so Margaret, I would say if you're always, I'm using strong language, right? If you're always giving just to those three and none of them can say no to you, and you're feeling, all of a sudden like, oh, all this pressure. Being aware to say, are there other people that aren't in this room that we need to talk about? To say, and again, it's not just giving somebody that you can't trust. You have to build that trust. We understand that, but if the three of you are ever feeling, wow, you're just adding, can we not add this one more thing? It's a great idea, but we don't have the capacity right now. Or can we find somebody else to do it? Make sense? You're like, unfortunately. Okay. So I want to point out, I got you guys. Okay, so let's go on to achievers and say these two are very, very related. So please stand up if you have achiever in your top. Yes, there are. Okay, so let's see who we got here. Emily, Randy, Margaret, Cammy, Lori, Ellen, and John. All right. And that's one of your top ones. So achievers. You live with one or many to-do lists. You take great satisfaction in crossing those things off your list, right? Someone who confided in me, we're in confession, right? That you do something, you go and cross it off your list, and you're like, I didn't write that down. You quickly write it down so you can cross it off, right? A couple of you told me you did that. And it feels good. It feels good, so keep doing that, right? And whatever helps make you feel accomplished. So achiever is strongest edge of the driving strength, so you want to get things done. If at the end of the school day, or at the end of the day, somebody goes, hey, how was your day? You're like, in your head, you're like, cross off nothing. And if you did, you're like, this is a good day, got a lot done. Or you're like, you know what, it was good, but I didn't get anything done, I'm so frustrated. Right, that's an achiever. You might even find that your achiever kicks in right before bed. You're like, I didn't cross anything off the list, so I have to go do something. So I feel like it was a productive day, and then I can go. I don't know if there's a reward system. Right? So understand, achiever is going to help make sure that you're getting a lot of things done. But very often, people who have achiever, you're living in the next moment. You're hoping I finish early so you can do the next thing. At break, you're checking your email, right? It's the idea of I want to do that one little thing right now when I have those couple minutes. So the encouragement is sometimes, number one, stop and smell the roses, right? Celebrate some of the wins. Don't feel like it's always go, go, go. And similarly to responsibility, partner up with strategic to help you prioritize and say no when you have to do that. That make sense? All right, so if you have achiever and responsibility, please stand up. So both of those. Stay standing for a little bit. The 6 of you that are standing, you are the Energizer buddies. You just keep going and going and going. Right? Again, you're taking in more and more and more. You just need to be aware of that. And sometimes, if your body's telling you to slow down, slow down. Don't worry, I know you're never going to just do nothing. But, instead of the 80 hours, is it maybe the 70 hours, maybe the 60 hours, just kind of rest and celebrate, right? I feel like this is a tough conversation, I know. Okay.
See us again in 3 weeks.
Right?
Yeah. All right, now stay standing if you have learner and achiever. I'm sorry, learner and achiever. So stand up if you have learner and achiever. All right, the 5 of you. All right, the 5 of you here have what we call VUCA. You can handle volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous situations. Basically, you thrive in chaos. When things go wrong, there's a switch that turns on, you're like, I'll just figure it out. I do what I have to do. Is that pretty true for the 5 of you? Yeah, okay. You guys can sit down. Let's sit down now. So I just want to point out some of these combination factors, how they show up. Right, so learners and achievers, again, the last 5 that were standing up, it's the idea of, again, you don't like status quo. You're always trying to make things better. Right? If you're working with other people who are like happy with just, well, we've always done it this way. You're like, that is the most frustrating thing. Let's make it better, right? Let's always strive for excellence. And that's going to be great, right? Especially going into that strategic planning and the chaos that you have to deal with on a daily basis and all the rules and regulations that possibly change and impact what you're doing. Your VUCA kicks in and say, all right, I guess we have to figure out something new so it fits. All right. So, stand up if you have learner. I know I just kind of talked about that VUCA, but I wanted to do that one more standing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, all you learners can have a seat. So learners, we teach our risk takers. You enjoy the process of learning and mastering things that are new, and as a result, you will take calculated risk. You weigh the pros and the cons. You realize that when you are learning something new, you're not going to get it right every step of the way. So some people will see that as risky because they're like, oh, I don't want to fail, right? But have you ever heard the acronym for fail, what that means? Oh wait, Georgia, do you think you're going to get it?
Yeah, well, oh. It's like, I'm tip of my tongue.
First attempt in learning. Right? So if I try to learn a new language and I mess up miserably and I quit, right? It's like, oh, I failed, I'm not going to do it. But, well, does anybody get languages right away, right? It's the first attempt in learning. You're going to fail, but you're going to fail forward. You're going to learn from your failures. Most people will tell me I learn best from the failures, right? That time where I completely flopped, I learned so much more from that than where I was successful right away. So learners, you do say you're risk takers. You're going to calculate those risks, weigh the pros and the cons. You're comfortable trying something new. And with you having learners, the idea of you want to learn and master something new, right? You just go really deep with information. So with that strategic plan, you might have that plan for something that you've never experienced before. The VUCA and chaos, you're going to figure it out, right? But your learners will also say, I've never done it before, but I will figure it out. I will learn as much as I can. I'll learn from others. I'll take a certificate, go to a conference, whatever that looks like. And again, I'm not surprised when I see people who have learner working in education, right? You love to learn so much, you're trying to create more lifelong learners in the next generation. Makes sense. All right, now I'm going to take one more, and because it ties with that one, is input. So please stand up if you have input. All right, Eric is standing himself again. So we need Eric so much. You know that, right?
It's nice to
It's a
be
big
here.
one.
It's nice to feel that way.
It's
You
nice
gotta
to
balance
hear.
the book.
You are all needed. All right. So input is a problem-solving strength. People who have input, you are the jack of all trades, the master of none. You just know a little bit about everything.
So true. Yep.
And
Got a movie quote for that?
Yeah,
we did just like a trivia thing, and I'm terrible at trivia. Like I told Eric in our one-on-one, I'm like, I don't ever want to play trivia against you. I'm gonna lose. You're gonna kick my butt. It's not even gonna be fun for him, right? It's just understanding. Trivia is something that you really enjoy, right? So like you were saying, so we got some movie quotes or song quotes. So people who have input are just ultra curious. It's the idea of if Eric doesn't know, he's gonna figure it out. Or there's a good chance you're faced with an issue, and Eric goes, you know what, so when I was reading the article about that, this is what they said. And you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, right? So input is very immediate. You already know the information and it's cataloged in your brain, or you're gonna find out the answer right away. So by the laughter, it sounds pretty true, huh, Eric? Just very curious, a lot of information out there.
Yeah, I think of myself, I have a lot of talents, I suppose, or experience in different realms. And one of the things I always say I'm really happy about being here at LCCA with a new school is all the things that I've learned over time I've been able to put to use. So this is the one place where I've really been able to really use every piece of information and learning that I've developed over all these years. So, I do take offense at the master of none. I do think that there might be one or two things that I could
You've mastered.
master. But hey,
Where is learner for you? Do you know?
it's number one.
Okay, that's why. You know what? I was looking at the wrong page. Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. Because I was going to say that and then I looked at the wrong page and I didn't see there. All right, so you were correct, Eric, and I think I said that in our one-on-one. Because he has learner, remember learners like to be subject matter experts? So with his combination of input and learner, he is the jack of all trades, the master of some. So the way it works is input is just very curious, right? Eric's like, I got all this information, I know a little bit about everything. You start a conversation with him, he can have a couple minutes conversation on that topic. But then his learner will say, ooh, that's fascinating. I want to be the subject matter expert in that. And interesting, go deep with something else. That's how those two work together. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. So that's that input and learner. Oh, very good. So let's take a break here. Again, 5-minute or so break, and we will continue.
now that I'm looking around the room, I can clearly